finally hits the market. But if you've been
What's up, YouTube? Blaze here, and I'm back with another reaction video. Okay, for today's video, I'm going to be covering something interesting that just developed with the Valve, because for those who didn't put in pre-orders, or those who don't know, Valve is going to release their new Steam controller worldwide. And as for why that's been a topic of interest and debate, it's because they're releasing the Steam controller first and not combining it with the Steam Machine, which is their new portable PC/console hybrid, and their new Steam Frame, which is their new VR headset that they've announced several months ago. However, the reason for a lot of the delays in particular was due to the AI RAM and storage prices, so that caused some delays for a lot of things. If anything, I'm curious on the latest update with Valve. I just want to find out what's going on. Not that I don't mind the Steam controller, because I might consider getting it. Emphasis on might. I just want to know what's going on. Anyways, here we go. If you guys are ready, I know I am. Let's go.
On May 4th, for $99, the new Steam controller finally hits the market. But if you've been following the breadcrumbs since the initial announcement in November 2025, you know this wasn't the plan. We were supposed to be getting the living room takeover bundle, the dedicated box, the VR headset, and the input device all at once. So, why the split? Is Valve's hardware strategy falling apart? Or are we witnessing the most calculated slow roll in gaming history? To understand the scope of what is happening, we have to go back to the moment this was all revealed. Gabe Newell himself set the stage for this new era. We've been super happy with the success of Steam Deck, and PC gamers have continued asking for even more ways to play all the great titles in their Steam libraries. Our work over the years on other hardware, and even more importantly on SteamOS, has enabled Steam controller, Steam Machine.
Yeah, because for those who don't know, around 2015, Steam tried its hand at creating its very first generation console, which is where the name the Steam Machine comes from, as well as the Steam controller. The problem is, it had so many issues back then. One, on the console itself was mainly exclusively with a partnership through Alienware. Not to mention, not that many units sold. The original Steam controller was so awkward and janky, people could hardly use it. And the third biggest reason was it's because the console itself was basically the beginning of Valve's exclusive Linux distro known as SteamOS. And at the time, Windows was the main predominant operating systems for PCs all over the world. Of course, a lot has changed over in the 10 years, and of course the landscape is a thing, but in reality, I have nobody has a clue where it's gonna go, well, if anything.
And Steam Frame to do just that. Gaben's quote highlights the full circle moment Valve is in, but that circle just got a lot more complicated, as Valve's very own Pierre Liu told IGN.
What can you tell me about Steam Deck 2?
We're hard at work on it, and obviously every step of the way, like if you look at our hardware projects over the years, there's always you can draw a straight line from original Steam controller and Steam machines to Steam Deck, to everything that we're announcing and shipping this year, right? And we expect Steam Deck 2 will be, a lot of the same, where a lot of what we're doing here will be learnings, that build up to it.
That straight line is the key. Today, we aren't just talking about a $99 controller. We are discussing the Ramageddon crisis holding back the Steam Machine, the secret performance tools Valve has just given developers to fix their games, and the confirmation that Valve is now hard at work on a next-generation Steam Deck 2. So let's start with the piece we actually have, the controller. While I'm sure most of you have already seen your own reviews that focused on the TMR magnetic sticks and even the 35-hour battery life, Valve's Pierre Lou and Steve made it very clear in their recent sit-down that the controller is a building block. One of the biggest hurdles of the original 2015 Steam controller was the learning curve. It was too weird for the average console player, but with the new version, Valve is doubling down on input parity. Valve engineers.
Yeah, basically what Valve did was they tried something, it didn't work, and now they're coming out with something new that's guaranteed to succeed 10 years later.
Steve says the controller doesn't have RAM in it. It's not as complicated to start getting out the door for us. From the beginning, these were all different products, and the only hard deadline is we didn't want to ship the Steam Machine before the Steam controller. There's no point in holding it back while we work through the other stuff.
We want to provide as many advanced inputs as possible so people can just play the way they want to play their games. In particular, both gyro and trackpads are something we find really important for these advanced feature controllers. There really are a high skill ceiling input that you can use to get really high performance in competitive games, but also like when you're playing casual games like deck builders, they just give you another way to play that's really comfy.
So by releasing the controller on May 4th, Valve is essentially giving the community months to master those high skill ceiling inputs before the Steam Machine even arrives, if they haven't already with a Steam Deck. They want the muscle memory to be established now, so when the Steam Machine releases, you won't find it hard to use the controller as a mouse. But as cool as the tech.
Yeah, because one of their initial plans with the Steam Machine is to bundle it with a controller out of the box. So, in a weird strategic way, it would make sense, especially if everybody he's trying to get this controller and it ends up selling like hotcakes.
The controller is currently an input device without a home, which leads us to the elephant in the room, the missing Steam Machine. Originally slated for an early 2026 launch, it has been pushed back into the soon category, but Valve didn't sugarcoat the reason, the global RAM crisis. Because of the massive increase in demand for memory and storage for AI data centers, prices.
Yeah, and that to this day, I'm still frustrated over that. Because seriously, why do we need to do this just for the sake of AI? There are some good things that AI has done, but it's mostly just terrible.
For the memory Valve needs have skyrocketed. Bradley Lynch recently said that Valve's internal pricing targets have been completely upended by this. Valve just added a bunch of packages to the Steam Machine and Steam Frame apps. Usually they stage different hardware SKUs, including different power cables required in different regions for purchase this way. Info on them is definitely coming soon after controller launch. Lynch also noted that the Steam Machine is affected the most by these RAM costs. While the Steam Frame is not bad, this explains why Valve is.
Yeah, because I don't think you need the same thing for VR headsets. I'm not certain. I'll have to ask a friend of mine that's a VR expert, or to see if I can get him to weigh in on this. I don't know. All I know is it's going to be interesting to see, how this is all going to play out.
Holding the machine back. If they ship today, they would have to charge a lot more than they originally planned for. Pierre Lou was blunt about this yesterday.
The key thing that is making it not launched yet is really just about the logistics of finishing it up in terms of supply and getting it to users' hands. Doing it in the other order would have been harder, right? Like the machine is harder to ship out without a controller, but the controller is definitely something that we think is going to be primarily used by an audience on normal desktop PC, and so we want to make sure that we can get it into their hands as soon as possible, as soon as it's ready, basically, without having to wait for any other.
This Pierre guy looks exhausted, but then again, and I imagine the last several months for Valve, especially anyone that's got a big enough position in Valve. I imagine the last several months they were sweating bullets on trying to figure out what to do, because of a situation that no one ever saw coming or was in anyone's control.
Factors there.
Essentially, Valve realized that if they shipped the Steam machine today, they would have to charge a painful price. And if there's one thing Gabe Newell hates, it's a price point that limits adoption. Just remember how Gabe Newell described the Steam Deck's $399 starting price as painful but critical. Reports from Insider Gaming and Tech Radar suggest Valve is currently going back and forth internally on whether to sell the Steam machine at a loss to combat these rising component costs. They want this to be the default living room box, and they can't do that if it costs too much. But something that needs to be noted is it seems like the Steam machine is nearly finished on the software side. As Pierre said,
in terms of Steam machine and stuff, it's really just about the logistics of getting it into users' hands. I think if you've used a Steam Deck docked, the experience is pretty much there, right? It's that plus some more GPU horsepower. Of course, there's a ton of polish and other feature work that we can do, but at the end of the day, the core experience is there.
Which we have seen support added in recent SteamOS updates. Valve has the operating system ready, they have Proton 11 compatibility layer, and they have the controller ready to go. They are literally just waiting for the global economy to let them sell the box at a price that won't kill it on arrival, while Valve waits for the hardware component.
Yeah, because in a perspective like this, anything that shows up that's likely to be DOA is not only going to be a massive disaster in terms of economically, but also a PR nightmare, because Valve is one of those companies that I believe practically has 99.9% trust in all the consumers. Plus, as I saw occasional YouTube comments saying how people worship Gabe Newell as if he's close to God. So, point is, Valve spent decades trying to build their reputation as someone that's on the side of gamers. So, basically, if they did this, it'd be a huge disaster on their end.
To become affordable, they aren't just sitting on their hands. They're actually fixing some of the biggest problems with the Steam ecosystem, like the optimization. On April 23rd, Valve quietly rolled out a massive update to the Steamworks Performance Dashboard. This is a tool most players will never see as it's on the developer side, but it is one of the most important things Valve has done in years. In the past, the verified badge was a bit of a black box. A game could be verified, but still run like a slideshow in certain areas. Now, Valve is showing developers a 30-day trailing average of the exact frame rates players are getting on Steam hardware. If a dev sees their performance score dipping, they can see exactly where the community is struggling. But you might be wondering, why does this matter for the Steam machine? And that's because when the machine finally launches, Valve wants a library of games that don't just work, but hit that specific 1080p target consistently. They are essentially using the current delay period to let developers developers optimize their games, as if it's running on the Steam Deck, it will run on the Steam Machine. Plus, when the rest of the hardware is out, like the Steam Machine and frame, we can expect that information to also be included, which would lead to much more optimization for these devices, as developers would have direct information into how their game is performing without really much fluff. We also have some indication we could see something similar but on the gamer side, so we know how well a game is running on specific hardware. This brings us to the question everyone commonly asks: where is the Steam Deck 2? Valve confirmed yesterday that they are hard at work on it, but they are refusing to release it until it can clear a brutal performance bar. Valve isn't interested in a slight improvement.
Yeah, they basically want to do it better. Way better than its predecessor. Which is understandable. All because, well, I took college courses for both of business and game design, and basically how it goes is, well, for a company like Valve, they really want to make sure all the bells and whistles are there together, or just to keep delivering good product, and to make sure they can keep the good faith of their consumer base, which has worked so far. And no doubt that that's the one major thing in that Gabe Newell and all those other guys in high positions at Valve, how practically are thinking. They're doing everything they can to put the customer first. And given how that Valve is a privately owned company and doesn't have to listen to stockholders and shareholders, they are looking out for the little guy. And that's how it should be. Because no one else is. Trust me on that.
Their stance is pretty clear. We're not interested in getting to a point where it's 20 or 30 or even 50% more performance at the same battery life. We want something a little bit more demarcated than that. Valve is waiting for a generational leap in SoC technology. They are waiting for the moment they can give us double the performance while also improving the battery life. Every piece of hardware Valve is shipping right now.
Yeah, because in certain circumstances, when it comes to the Steam Deck versus like other portable home gaming devices like a Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch, which I'm sad to say, and this is true, but it's true though that when it comes to battery optimization for long gameplay sessions, unfortunately the Switch beats out the Steam Deck, where the Steam Deck has possibly better performance, plus the fact that you can access a lot of games from your Steam library on that compared to Nintendo Switch, where you gotta be in Nintendo's ecosystem. But in reality, the fact that the Steam Deck comes up short in battery life optimization, I think that's going to be the major key takeaway on that.
Is actually a test for the Deck 2. For example, when you look at the Steam frame, it is testing ARM64 architecture and Lepton translation. The Steam controller is testing TMR sticks and grip sense durability, while the Steam machine is testing the 1080p verified standards. It may not seem direct, but like Valve has said, all of their hardware plays into each other in pretty much a straight line. With everything we have covered in the past regarding Valve's progress with ARM, it is something that just seems like the next logical step for the Steam Deck 2. When the Deck 2 finally arrives, it will be the culmination of years of real-world data from the controller, the machine, and the frame. Valve was dealt a bad hand with the global RAM shortage, which...
Yeah, and let's be honest, no one could have ever expected that. And unfortunately, as a consequence, the Aster, that could still be felt in some ways despite everything cooling down. Plus, when I was talking to someone for advice on whether or not on what I should do in terms of upgrading my PC in the future, or they literally said that the whole thing with RAM and storage because of AI, that's not going away at least for a while. In fact, I think for most, that's going to be another reason why people hate AI, on top of all the other reasons.
Killed the big bang simultaneous launch of the Steam hardware. On May 4th, the controller starts the momentum. By the end of the year, we expect the Steam Machine news to finally go green. And by the time the Steam Deck 2 eventually breaks cover, likely in late 2027 or even 2028, it will be the centerpiece of a full living room ecosystem. But I am curious what you think. Are you buying the $99 controller now, or are you holding out for the full machine or even the Steam frame?
Okay, that does it for today's video. Personally, I want to get the controller because I just want to feel what it's like, and plus, that's the way it's supposed to be set up. It's kind of like what would happen if you cross together the Steam Deck with basically the latest Xbox controller. If anything, I just want to try that out just to see how it fits, and maybe try a couple games that I normally would do with mouse and keyboard. Or, because one of the reasons whenever I stream Arc Raiders on PC now, I don't use a controller like I did in the beginning, mainly because whenever you move this analog sticks to move the character, it seems to cause the characters to drift even though if you're not doing it. So yeah, that's pretty much my thought on the whole thing. So bottom line is, I may end up getting the Steam controller eventually. I know for a fact that the Steam machine is still on my radar because, well, I just want to be able to play my Steam games without being on my PC all the time. Anyways, that's it for me. If you liked today's video, please leave a like, drop a comment down below. Also, please feel free to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to get notified on when I post new videos or when I go live. You can catch me on social media. I'll leave all my links along with the original video in the description below. Oh, and if you want to catch me live, you can either subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Rumble and or Kick. You can follow me on Kick or YouTube for my gaming streams, or you can follow me on Kick and or Rumble for my reaction streams, because I'm going to be doing my reaction streams on both Kick and Rumble every Wednesday. So, until next time, see you guys later.